Well, we're going to talk about the Diocese of Sodor and Man. Quite a different sort of subject. With me is Henry, who we've interviewed so many times on different subjects. This is really interesting because the Isle of Man is pretty well up there with the changes with the church in your investments and being responsible. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yes. So as well as other ethical commitments and towards investments, the new announcement is divestment from fossil fuels. That's oil, gas and coal. And to remain out of it.
And the Diocese of Sodor and Man, has that got a large amount of money invested in these sort of things then?
Well, it's a relatively small diocese. However, this is significant because it's the third diocese to announce this, and really, it's setting a precedent for institutions that otherwise might be regarded as quite slow moving. This is ahead of the curve.
Yes, because what you're saying 2030, isn't it, for you?
Divestment has already happened.
Oh, right.
So we're already out of fossil fuels.
Oh, you're actually done?
Yeah,
right.
And we won't go back in.
So way ahead of the curve, because I'm hearing 2030, some governments, or 2040s and 20s and 50s, all sorts of numbers.
So 2030 is part of a bigger process that was agreed in just before the pandemic, actually, both in the UK and here on the Isle of Man in the diocese, which is commitment to zero carbon by 2030 across the whole church. So that includes, well, obviously the churches on the Isle of Man and all the processes, even the embedded energy within buildings and new buildings.
This is very forward thinking, isn't it?
Well, it's an act of faith. I don't think a bunch of accountants would have made such a decision, but it appeared that a group of bishops and other people involved in the church were able to get around the table at the General Synod in the UK and make this decision, which is really stepping out there and saying, right, well, we're going to put the first foot forward. We're not going to keep holding back.
Which could help other people make that step, I'm guessing.
Oh, definitely. I think that offering that hope and saying, look, step out, make that first move, hopefully is a message for here as well. We've got elections coming up, and it would be great to see both people voting with their heart and candidates coming forward and being prepared to make bold decisions.
Yes, I mean, maybe some have, but it hasn't been a big sort of traction on that. I haven't really heard a lot about it, but some are making some progress. This sort of thing leading from the front, it does have a penalty. You kind of indicate that, because the accountants wouldn't do it, and that's probably the problem, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the church is meant to be associated with care for creation, so I guess their remit is part of that, which does help. But I think it close in people's hearts, it's a growing concern, and we do live what I'd say fragmented lives. On the one hand, we come home to the family and we're delightful, and then we go to work and we know that we're involved in either businesses that are harming people, harming communities, where there are policies that we would regard as non-ethical. So there's this contrast and this need for reintegrating our lives, which I think the whole pandemic has allowed us to stop and think about, what do we really want? Is this really who we are? Are we split in so many ways?
And when this decision was made at a high level, was it easy to pass, or was it a bit of a battle?
No, I mean, they'd already committed to a later date and reviewed it and brought it to 2030. So no, this has a lot of support.